Hey y'all, in this video we're going to go over how to make an annotated bibliography. Going to go over the requirements. The annotated bib is basically task 1.2, so our second task for this unit. First step is finding the sources and doing the research. The second step there is creating the bib and basically writing about the sources. So if you've forgotten what that looks like, what the requirements are, just go back into modules like I'm doing here. And it's loading. So the rubric for it looks like this. All right, so we're going to determine the central idea of a nonfiction text, analyze the development of the central idea over the course of the text, analyze specific details, how they shape and define the central idea, and we're going to edit it using MLA style manual guidelines. First, we need to set up our document. So I'm in an Office 365 document. All students with Cherokee County School District have access to Office 365 for free. But if you're like working at home on like your own personal computer, you may have an offline version of Word and it could look a little bit different. So just know you may have to look a few different places for it. But anyways, the first thing we do whenever we're creating a document is we put our name. So not in caps lock. All right, so I'm going to put my name. Second line down for the MLA style header is the name of the instructor. So we'll do Mr. Williams. I want to point out you're not putting just Williams for the instructor. You're not putting Jake Williams. It is Mr. Williams. Third line down is going to be the name of the course. So you'll do Honors Lit. And below that is where you're going to put the date. Now listen, you don't put the date that you're actually working on the document. You put the date that the assignment is due. So the annotated bib task 2 is due on September the 3rd, 2020. So notice we're putting 3, the date, we're just putting the numerical date, first 3 letters of the month, SEP, and then the year, 2020. All right, now I'm going to hit enter one time to return to one line. It's the next line down. Going to go to the middle of the page to do text alignment, and we're going to center it. Okay, and then we're going to title our document Annotated Bibliography. Okay, just like that. One more line down, and then we go back to left centered. And I spelled bibliography wrong. That's embarrassing. There we go. Okay, so down one line from the title to the next line. All right, so the first thing we do for the bibliography is we're going to get a citation. So you made them a noodle tool, so go ahead and go back there, and we'll copy and paste the citation and bring it back to our document. All right, so there it is. It appears. And we're going to change it so the text just appears like that. I want you to make sure everything is kind of lined up the same way, because we're going to edit it and make sure it's done correctly ourselves. All right, so I'm bringing everything so it's touching. All right. Okay, so part of the annotation is creating the annotation. So we have the citation here, which is the article. This section right here is you citing the article where you're getting it from. Next line down, you're going to create basically the annotation. So the rubric, here's where you're going to talk about the central idea. You're going to talk about how the central idea is developed, what specific details are developing the central idea. So I'm just going to put in like a fake sentence so you can get the format. This is the central idea of the text. All right, and then I'll copy and paste that a few times just so we have what looks like a paragraph there. Oops. Okay. All right. Okay, so basically we have a really small paragraph, but let's go ahead and edit this. Next thing you need to know, for every single document you put in an MLA format, it needs to be double spaced, the entire thing. So I'm going to highlight everything. You can do that with a cursor or hit Control A. It's all highlighted. Then we're going to go up here. I'm sorry, rather we're going to right click. So I'm right clicking. And then we go to paragraph options. We're going to click on that. And we go over here to line spacing. And we're going to go to double and hit OK. Alright, so there are double lines in between everything now. One thing that Office 365 does that's absolutely obnoxious, it tries to predict when you're creating a new paragraph. And when it does that, it makes a mistake. So to fix that, we go to paragraph options. Okay, and you look over here, spacing, we had before, 0 point. After, we need to make that 0 point as well, and hit OK. That's going to resolve that. If you look closely, it's shrinking the space between this line right here and the line of the paragraph. All right. Next thing, MLA for an annotated bibliography. When you're creating a citation with the annotation, they require it to be in something called hanging indentation. So we're going to highlight the entire citation. I'm going to right click again, go to paragraph options, go over here. Remember, you are all very, very special, and we're going to hit hanging. Okay. All right, so notice this section is indented over, which is correct. However, we need this section indented over as well, so it's going to look like that. But it looks like we have the double space put in again, so let's fix that. Back to paragraph options, double. Okay, so there we go. That's done correctly. All right, so basically that's the way the annotation should work. One more thing I need to tell you to do, I forgot to do this at the beginning, but MLA requires you to put your last name and the page number at the very top of each page. So Microsoft will do that for you. You need to go to Insert, Page Number, goes at the top right. And then you also have to put your last name, so I'm going to put mine, Williams. Now this is super obnoxious. It's going to disappear. You're not going to be able to see it when you're on Office 365. But if we were to print this document, it would show up as Williams 1. When we got to the second page, Williams 2. Third page, Williams 3, so on and so forth. So it does very well there. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead to basically a completed annotated bibliography. I made this one earlier. And so here are 3 different citations. I want to point out, first of all, that the annotations aren't just put in any order willy-nilly. They're put in a specific order. So if you look closely, this annotation begins with the letter H, Hazlitt. Going down, this one begins with the letter, well, we'll say it begins with L because we're going to skip over the E. And then further down, the next one is Peoples, which was the article that we were doing on the previous page. So the annotations go in alphabetical order, H, L, and then P. So you need to order yours alphabetically as well. All right, so let's go down to the actual annotation. The ones above it are just copied and pasted versions of the Peoples article, so we're going to talk about that because here's the one that I actually wrote to show you an example of what we're looking for. Okay, so it says Peoples writes about new census data that shows 2 conflicting narratives about the rural population of Georgia. So that's the beginning sentence. Let's refer back to our rubric. So edit writing to meet the guidelines of MLA style. So that one is done, completed. We also need to see the central idea, see how it's developed, and have specific details that define the central idea. So Peoples writes about new census data that shows 2 conflicting narratives about the rural population of Georgia. The article argues the idea that the numbers in rural communities are flowing towards centers of higher population. So I would say this sentence right here does a really good job of explaining the central idea. So I would give credit for that. Next, it says one scholar, Bridges, says that young people in these communities go to college and don't come back. He adds because there are perceived to be fewer business opportunities. It's very challenging to get inbound population. Vincent, another scholar, says that there's been this hope that another rural rebound will materialize, but the past decade has been really kind of dramatic in terms of rural depopulation nationally. All right, so 3 quotes here. We refer back, we're looking for specific details that are going to shape and refine the central idea. So those details, those are specific, those are quotes, and it's also pieces of information. Those aren't just random quotes. If I were going to write a paper on this topic, those were quotes that I would use inside of my paper. And really that's what you should be aiming to do. These sources are going to be sources for task 3, your informational essay. So go ahead and start looking for quotes and have those quotes be the details that you reference in the bibliography. All right, last thing we need to do is talk about how it develops, the central idea is developed over the course of the text. So here it's talking about how young people go to college and don't come back. Next, there's not business opportunities, so that's another way it's developed in the article. Vincent talks about how there's hope that there's going to be a rebound, but it never really happens. And then kind of the last thought that the article has is that smaller towns, while rural population in general is declining, smaller towns and rural areas are growing as well. So it's not just people all flowing back to Atlanta. They're going to smaller cities like Tifton and Perry that are in rural areas as well. So if you were to read the article, you would see that this is kind of the progression of what Peoples writes about. So it's talking about how that central idea is developed. And really, there are 2 conflicting narratives in that rural communities are flowing to areas of higher population. So we have the central idea, we have specific details, and we have basically the gist, the summary of what the article says. This is a pretty good annotation. It would get full credit. All right. So basically that's it. You're going to repeat that process for all 3 of your nonfiction sources. And eventually we're going to look for, like I was explaining with the quotes, you're going to look to use these sources as evidence in your informational essay. But at this point, that's really all you need to worry about. So yeah, as always, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to clarify anything that's given you a headache, and we'll go from there. All right, thanks. Bye.